to wit, the dwarf, the maiden, and the stately lady. But when he stood still to abide their coming, and looked toward them, lo! there was nothing before him save the goodly house of Bartholomew Golden, and 3 children and a cur-dog playing about the steps thereof, and about him were 4 or 5 passers by going about their business. Then was he all confused in his mind, and knew not what to make of it, whether those whom he had seemed to see pass aboard ship were but images of a dream, or children of Adam in very flesh. Howsoever, he entered the house, and found his father in the chamber, and fell to speech with him about their matters; but for all that he loved his father, and worshipped him as a wise and valiant man, yet at that hour he might not hearken the words of his mouth, so much was his mind entangled in the thought of those 3, and they were ever before his eyes, as if they had been painted on a table by the best of limners. And of the 2 women he thought exceeding much, and cast no wyte upon himself for running after the desire of strange women; for he said to himself that he desired not either of the twain; nay, he might not tell which of the twain, the maiden or the stately queen, were clearest to his eyes, but sore he desired to see both of them again, and to know what they were. So wore the hours till the Wednesday morning, and it was time that he should bid farewell to his father and get aboard ship. But his father led him down to the quays and on to the Katherine, and there Walter embraced him, not without tears and forebodings, for his heart was full. Then presently the old man went aland, the gangway was unshipped, the hawsers cast off, the oars of the towing boats splashed in the dark water, the sail fell down from the yard and was sheeted home, and out plunged the Katherine into the misty sea, and rolled up the grey slopes, casting abroad her ancient withal, whereon was beaten the token of Bartholomew Golden, to wit, a B and a G to the right and the left, and there above a cross and a triangle rising from the midst. Walter stood on the stern, and beheld, yet more with the mind of him than with his eyes, for it all seemed but the double of what the other ship had done. And the thought of it, as if the twain were as beads strung on one string, and led away by it into the same place, and thence to go in the like order, and so on again and again, and never to draw nigher to each other. CHAPTER 3. Walter heareth tidings of the death of his father. Fast sailed the Katherine over the seas, and nought befell to tell of either to herself or her crew. She came to one cheaping town, and then to another, and so on to a third and a fourth, and at each was buying and selling after the manner of chapmen, and Walter not only looked on the doings of his father's folk, but lent a hand, what he might, to help them in all matters, whether it were in seaman's craft or in chaffer. And the further he went, and the longer the time wore, the more he was eased of his old trouble wherein his wife and her treason had to do. But as for the other trouble, to wit his desire and longing to come up with those 3, it yet flickered before him, and though he had not seen them again as one sees people in the streets, and as if he might touch them if he would, yet were their images often before his mind's eye, and yet, as time wore, not so often, nor so troublously, and forsooth both to those about him and to himself he seemed as a man well healed of his melancholy mood. Now they left that 4th stead, and sailed over the seas, and came to a 5th, a very great and fair city, which they had made more than 7 months from Langton on Holm. And by this time was Walter taking heed and joyance in such things as were toward in that fair city, so far from his kindred, and especially he looked on the fair women there, and desired them and loved them, but lightly, as befalleth young men. Now this was the last country whereto the Katherine was boun, so there they abode some 10 months in daily chaffer, and in pleasuring them in beholding all that there was of rare and goodly, and making merry with the merchants and the townsfolk and the country folk beyond the gates. And Walter was grown as busy and gay as a strong young man is like to be, and was as one who would fain be of some account amongst his own folk. But at the end of this while it befell on a day, as he was leaving his hostel for his booth in the market, and had the door in his hand, there stood before him 3 mariners in the guise of his own country, and with them was one of clerkly aspect, whom he knew at once for his father's scrivener, Arnold Penstrong by name. And when Walter saw him, his heart failed him, and he cried out: "Arnold, what tidings? Is all well with the folk at Langton?" Said Arnold: "Evil tidings are come with me, matters are ill with thy folk, for I may not hide that thy father, Bartholomew Golden, is dead, God rest his soul." At that word it was to Walter as if all that trouble, which but now had sat so light upon him, was once again fresh and heavy, and that his past life of the last few months had never been; and it was to him as if he saw his father lying dead on his bed, and heard the folk lamenting about the house. He held his peace a while, and then he said in a voice as of an angry man: "What, Arnold? And did he die in his bed, or how? For he was neither old nor ailing when we parted." Said Arnold: "Yea, in his bed he died, but first he was somewhat sword bitten." "Yea, and how?" quoth Walter. Said Arnold: "When thou wert gone, in a few days' wearing thy father sent thy wife out of his house back to her kindred of the Reddings, with no honour, and yet with no such shame as might have been, without blame to us of those who knew the tale of thee and her, which God a mercy will be pretty much the whole of the city. Nevertheless the Reddings took it amiss, and would have a mote with us Goldings to talk of booting. By ill luck we yea said that, for the saving of the city's peace. But what betide? We met in our guild hall, and there befell the talk between us, and in that talk certain words could not be hidden, though they were none too seemly nor too meek. And the said words once spoken drew forth the whetted steel, and there then was the hewing and thrusting. 2 of ours were slain outright on the floor, and 4 of theirs, and many were hurt on either side. Of these was thy father, for, as thou mayst well deem, he was nought backward in the fray, but despite his hurts, 2 in the side and 1 on the arm, he went home on his own feet, and we deemed that we had come to our above. But well away, it was an evil victory, whereas in 10 days he died of his hurts. God have his soul. But now, my master, thou mayest well wot that I am not come to tell thee this only, but moreover to bear the word of the kindred, to wit, that thou come back with me straightway in the swift cutter which hath borne me and the tidings, and thou mayest look to it that though she be swift and light, she is a keel full weatherly." Then said Walter: "This is a bidding of war. Come back will I, and the Reddings shall wot of my coming. Are ye all boune?" "Yea," said Arnold, "we may up anchor this very day, or to morrow morn at the latest. But what aileth thee, master, that thou starest so wild over my shoulder? I pray thee not to take it so much to heart. Ever it is the wont of fathers to depart this world before their sons." But Walter's visage from wrathful red had become pale, and he pointed up street and cried out: "Look, dost thou see?" "See what, master?" quoth Arnold. "What, here cometh an ape in gay raiment, belike the beast of some jongler. Nay, by God's wounds, 'tis a man, though he be exceedingly misshapen, like a very devil. Yea, and now there cometh a pretty maid, going as if she were of his many, and lo here, a most goodly and noble lady. Yea, I see, and doubtless she owneth both the 2, and is of the greatest of the folk of this fair city, for on the maiden's ankle I saw an iron ring, which betokeneth thraldom amongst these aliens. But this is strange. For notest thou not how the folk in the street heed not this quaint show? Nay, not even the stately lady, though she be as lovely as a goddess of the Gentiles, and beareth on her gems that were by Langton twice over. Surely they must be over wont to strange and gallant sights. But now, master, but now?" "Yea, what is it?" said Walter. "Why, master, they should not yet be gone out of eyeshot, yet gone they are. What is become of them? Are they sunk into the earth?"